Hi, everybody. Good morning, and a huge welcome to our March Includability Community Support Group. It's really lovely to see you all. And as ever, if this is your first time with us on an Includability CSG, then a huge welcome to the family. It's wonderful to have you with us this morning. And of course, to our brilliant returning community, it's just wonderful to be by your side as always. Now, if you're happy to do so, please do take a moment to introduce yourselves on the chat feed. This is your tribe, your community. So please do tell us about your world. Tell us what you do. Share your upcoming events with us so that we can celebrate you and promote your business. And incredibly importantly, please let us know how we can support you. You are all now officially part of the Includability Collective. So in the most loving way, there is now no escape. You have the best community on the planet wrapped around you. So please let us know how we can help. You are so welcome to lean on us. It's what we're here for, and we can always hop on a call together to chat it through if there's anything additionally that you need. Our very own James Privato will be supporting with any questions you might have during the CSG itself. He'll be popping information to the chat feed as well as sharing links, upcoming news, events, and more for you across the next hour. And serving up a monthly treat as always, we have an inspirational lineup of 4 fabulous guest speakers to help inspire you on your journey in creating a healthier and a more inclusive workplace culture for your business. I'm delighted to be joined by the brilliant Cara Wheatley-McGrain, founder of The Mindful Gut, the wonderful Sacha Harvey, people director at Lucky Saint, the fabulous Ali Fisher, founder of Plans with Purpose, and the amazing Sonia Ponzo, founder of Outset Wellness. Now, just before we introduce our first guest speaker for you this morning, a huge thank you to everyone who joined us for their 3rd session as part of our first cohort of Burnout Awareness First Aiders on Thursday, led by the wonderful Katie Maycock. The workshops are really super accessible and they're split really into 4 one-hour online sessions that are all about delivering practical burnout training. It's all geared towards prevention, culture change, and sustainable performance. So if you'd be interested in joining the 2nd cohort, which is due to start in May, then please do click on the link. James has popped that within the chat feed. It's perfect for anyone keen to build their knowledge around tackling burnout properly and building healthier, more sustainable workplaces for the benefit of their team. So please do check that out. We'd absolutely love to have you with us if you can make that for the 2nd cohort in May. And now, without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our very first guest speaker for you this morning, the wonderful Cara Wheatley-McGrain, educational wellbeing consultant, TEDx speaker, author of Calm Your Gut, and one of our brilliant includability partner experts. Cara, it's so lovely to see you as always, and the virtual floor is yours when you're ready.
Amazing. Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all. To start off with, I promised Dave that I would ask you all what you'd have for breakfast, and I'd love you to pop it in the chat. It'd be such a lovely way of kind of sharing a little bit about yourself. I will circle back to it. So if you just like pop in, and please be honest, I will be passing the virtual microphone back to Dave. I'm very curious about what you've had for breakfast. Because last time we did this, we had some surprises. Thank you so much. I can see some things popping up. That's wonderful to see. So I'm going to pop my slides up so we can begin. Hopefully you can all see that okay. So yeah, that's my first question. Brilliant. Thank you so much, James. So amazing. Let's begin. I actually want to, because it's a kind of International Women's Day month, I'm kind of spreading it out. I actually want to talk about an extraordinary woman today as a segue into gut health. And Sacha, you might have heard this relatively recently, so forgive me. But I want to introduce an amazing person who really has shaped my views around gut health and mental well-being in some really interesting ways. So we're going to go on a little bit of a journey this morning. And I want you to imagine 1926 Chicago, a 5 foot tall female pediatrician, Dr. Clara Davis, walks into history with one bold idea. What if the body already knows what it needs? She did something that no ethics committee would ever sign off today. She created a kind of food orphanage, a living laboratory for 15 newly weaned infants. They had a choice of 34 different foods each week. The nurses were instructed, sit on your hands, no coaxing, no one just more bite, just let the young children decide what they want to eat. And over 4.5 years, they recorded every mouthful and tracked 36,000 meals. It was extraordinary. And what was amazing is that no two children ate the same meal. Some lived on chopped liver for weeks, others had carrots and milk for weeks, and yet all of the children thrived. You can imagine the chaos: mashed banana in the hair, squashed potato on the carpets, and yet all of his children knew what their bodies needed. So, Cara concluded that we have within us a compass, a deep knowing, our biological guide that tells us what we need to thrive. She called this the wisdom of the body. Now, much has happened in the last 100 years between Clara's experiment and our modern day supermarket aisles. There's so much noise out there, isn't there? So many different algorithms, experts shouting at us about what we need to do and eat. And I want us to kind of take a moment to reflect, and I'm going to be looking at your breakfast choices in a moment to see what your gut was guiding you to do today. But I wanted to segue a little bit from Cara to my story, and kind of maybe a little bit of our shared story, but I hope you'll have some curiosity. So this is me. This is me as a quite awkward, double denim clad teenage vegetarian who never actually ate any vegetables. None whatsoever. In fact, if beige was a food group, I was thriving. Actually, I really wasn't. It was bread, pasta, cheese on toast. And actually, I spent most of the 90s in a kind of low hum of anxiety inside me that I just thought was normal. So at the time, my chronic anxiety, bad skin and bloated belly, I just didn't know what was going on, and no one seemed to be able to support me to make different decisions. So I dropped out of school at 15 and I made it to college. I dropped out of college again twice. And I assumed that, this was my problem, my mind, my personality, something I needed to manage. But years later, when I was writing my book, Calm Your Gut, I came across a really fascinating study and actually started to change my whole view of what was going on for me back then. So scientists took some microbes from people living with depression and transferred them into mice. Nothing else changed. Same food, same environment, same tiny nice lives, but the mice started to change. They stopped exploring. They became withdrawn, less curious, as if they inherited a mood that wasn't theirs. And I remember thinking when I looked at the study, that's curious. They have no doom scrolling at 2 a.m, no anxiety, no history of trauma, but these mice have changed. So what has altered their behaviour? Well, it's their gut, and more specifically, their gut microbiome. It's really easy to overlook small things, isn't it? But we, all of us in this room, each of us, provide a cosy, comfortable, temperature-regulated environment for trillions, and yes, it really is trillions of bacterial beings. I will invite you to take a moment just to look down at your belly right now and take a moment to pause and appreciate this extraordinary inner ecosystem that's going on inside of you. And whatever you've just had for breakfast, that's what they're eating now. So just think about what you've been feeding them recently. Our gut bugs have a regular supply of food because they get to eat what we eat every day. We make those decisions for them. And actually, your gut is extraordinary because it's not just digesting your lunch, it's actually in constant conversation with your brain. It's shaping your mood, your stress levels. And my big mistake as a teenager was I just wasn't feeding them any fibre. Because when we feed them fibre, they take care of us. They feel good. They produce feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. They shape our immune system response. They even influence how we age. So this isn't just about mice. This is also about human studies are now showing that when we support the gut with real food and fibre, we can actually improve mood, reduce stress, and start to strengthen resilience. So I'm curious if a mouse can receive a borrowed mood, how much of what I was experiencing back then wasn't just personal, but it was something bigger, something systemic. So have you noticed that most conversations around mental well-being kind of happen downstream? We talk about treatment, support, crisis response, and we kind of need all of that. But in the UK, annually, we spend around £12 billion on mental health services each year. Even more in the States, around 100 billion annually. We're talking about $1 trillion in the last decade. And yet, what we do know is that young people's mental health is actually getting worse. Money's going up, mental health's going down. So there's something to kind of get curious there, isn't there? We now know that globally, a recent report by the Global Mind Foundation, which surveyed over 100,000 people, said that 40% of young adults will struggle with their mental health this year. And we're already seeing this in the workforce. We know that 1 in 3 18 to 24-year-olds will actually take time off work this year for mental health. So let's just pause and let that land. This isn't a future problem. It's actually a workforce problem right now. These are the young people that you're recruiting or trying to retain. So if we want to transform we have to transform the environments that we're creating at work. So what we do know is all of that money, there's very little link between outcomes for mental health, but we do see some patterns. And one of the most interesting patterns we're seeing is that the increase in ultra-processed food is tracking along to this increase in our mental health concerns. We now know that about 60% of the calories we eat in the UK are actually ultra-processed. And we know that young people are eating more of that food than older generations, sometimes twice, 2 or 3 times as much. So put simply, we know that food does shape our mood in ways that we're just fully starting to understand. So when I look back at that teenage self in her double denim outfit and her diet of beige, I don't just see her as someone who was anxious. I see her as someone in an environment that was increasing her anxiety. So this is kind of where you come in. Because actually we're leaders, aren't we? All of us are leaders in our workplace in different ways. And we can shape the environments of our workplace, the food in your organization, the culture of your teams. So I really want to talk about what do we do, not just going downstream, but looking upstream. How can we start to shift the food in our environments? How can we start to think about a health conversation, which is starting to transform and support our well-being at work? What would it look like if your workplace was designed to make gut healthy choices the easiest, most natural, not the hardest? So I want to get you thinking a little bit about that question and just taking a moment to think about what you could do differently. And I have a little bit of, I'm going to show you a video in a moment, but I actually wanted to also get you thinking about one small change that you could make personally or that you could make in your workplace to make healthier choices easier, more visible, more normal. And I'm going to have a quick look at the chat while you take a moment. I'd love to invite, what could you do, one small change to change your workplace or to change what you've had for your breakfast this morning, which will be shaping how you feel. I'm going to actually put the microphone briefly onto Dave as well. Dave, you knew I was going to come to you to talk about this today. What have you got to share with us?
Oh, Cara. So James ridiculed me for months on this, and I felt dirty and ashamed. So the last time you asked me this question, I had a bowl of rusks, which ordinarily is not brilliant, but it's the fact that I stole it from my then 3-year-old daughter at the time, who's now 4. I was a little better today. I knew this was happening and I was prepared. So I had a bowl of porridge, but then I made a cup of tea and there was one leftover Jaffa cake. So I ate that. So I feel disgusted because I've seen in the chat also flaxseed and overnight oats and like all these beautiful, incredible things. So we have a call full of really annoying, beautiful, wonderful, healthy people. And I feel disgusted with myself. So this is a good lesson. James had a hot cross bun. Pick on him.
And actually, I love this. And you know, something that's perfect. You had the porridge, wonderful. You've got your fibre in there. You've got your soluble fibre, perfect. cup of tea and Jaffa cake we can forgive because you started so well. I'm going
Love
to
you.
absolutely forgive that. And I love that we've got flaxseed and overnight oats. And this is something, so one of the things I do sometimes when I work with companies is we actually will create and design a breakfast together and then we'll eat that food together. And there is something really magical about, especially in our virtual spaces, about eating together, eating collaboratively, designing food that actually is going to nurture us, boost our brains, help us like feel really full and sated. So I'm so happy to hear that how many wonderful things. And I want to just share. I've got one other thing I'm going to share with you that I shared again quite recently. It's actually about our gut instincts being so powerful. So I'm going to share you a video. This is a little bit unusual, just to complete, just final thoughts. Your body knows what you need. It really does. Your body will actually support you if you tune in. Your gut will guide you. And I want to show you this extraordinary animal that does this. So I'm going to pop this on. It's just a couple of minutes. There might be a little pop-up box as I put it on. So I'll just move that over. Minerals. Oh, let me just move that out of the way. And here we go.
Rich in the calcium that these animals need to stay strong. And they'll scale a dam to get them.
In una situazione estrema, diciamo così, di rapidità, la possibilità di leccare del sale è una tentazione fortissima.
Without these salts and minerals, their bones won't grow, their nervous systems and muscles can't function. Movement and coordination can falter.
Io ho abbastanza paura quando sono in situazioni molto ripide e guardo verso il basso, non sono di certo uno stambecco.
There's a strong bond between mother and kid kid will follow her wherever she goes.
Cara, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I think this is purely an us thing. You're lovely. So I think the sound is coming through, but I
Oh,
don't think the
no.
video is.
Oh,
But
my
what we can
goodness.
do, if you're happy,
Yeah.
following, obviously kind of following the kind of the show, we can make sure that we can get the link out to everybody. Or we can drop it into the chat, like during the CSG, like whatever feels most comfortable. I'm so sorry. That's
Oh,
your
I'm so glad that you told me. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so you're just watching me watching the video.
It was brilliant. I loved it. The sheep
Okay.
noises were my favorite.
The joy of screen sharing. I don't know what happened. Okay, well, it is extraordinary, and I will share it. Thank you for letting me know, Dave. Okay. Well, wishing you all wonderful gut health, and I will be reading all the breakfast comments and replying, and I will hand it back to you, Dave.
Cara, you are brilliant. Thank you so much. Honestly, I just, the giggle crowd was lovely. You were absolutely brilliant. And obviously, to have Cara with us is extraordinary. She's one of our brilliant partner experts. She's one of the UK's leading voices in this area, and she achieves the most phenomenal results for her clients from all walks of life. She's extraordinary in the way that she helps organizations just think differently about mental health. And I think so typical of someone who is so brilliant and so generous with their time and their knowledge. She just breaks it down, which I love. So please do visit Cara's website. That will be popping up in the chat feed for you now. And Cara, thank you again. So inspirational and massively appreciate all of your time. And we'll get the link out to everybody on the CSG today so that they can watch they can watch that amazing video in full glam 4 HD a little later on today. Thank you so much. You are wonderful. Now, I've still got the giggles. Just before we introduce our next guests, we have a lot of lovely new faces here with us this month. So please indulge us as James is going to give us just a quick 2 minute breakdown as to what includability actually is and what we offer as support for businesses. James, thanks so much. Over to you.
Hey, thanks, Dave. I don't think I can compete with the dulcet tones of goat hooves as they trickle across the screen. No, hey everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I am my name is James Pravato. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Includability. For anybody new here, or if you're just here to support one of the brilliant speakers, please do indulge me for just a very rare few minutes on Dave's show, and let me quickly tell you what Includability is. Now, includability has evolved a lot from its roots as a nice to have certification into a need to have solution for your business. We exist to support, equip, and connect organizations to build better workplaces that perform. And we help them go from good intentions to a clear strategy, more inclusive, better mental health and well-being support, better gut health, more sustainable, more attractive to talent, and with better support and knowledge for your leadership. Now, the truth is that most organizations we work with are already doing a lot of work in these areas for their employees and teams, often far more than they realize. They've got policies, they have initiatives, they have resource groups, and probably some brilliant people trying to put it all together and drive it all forward. Now, the problem often isn't effort, it's that everything kind of tends to be disconnected, and it's really hard to evidence like that. And when you're stood in front of your leadership team, it's not always clear what should actually come next or where you are in your journey. And that's kind of the gap that we fill. So, Includability is a partnership for HR and people teams, and we help you do four things very clearly. We help you understand where you are today, we help you bring everything into one clear picture, and we help you identify what matters next. And then we help you build a structured cultural roadmap, linking it all together to help you go forward. Now, you might be thinking, well, where are you different? We're not, and you're not relying on one perspective with us. We bring with us 6 independent experts, each with deep lived experience across diversity and inclusion, mental health, well-being, sustainability and impact, leadership and government, and talent. And you get a properly rounded, trusted, expert-led view of your organization. Now, compare that to hiring separate consultants across all those areas, it also becomes incredibly cost effective. And we don't just hand over a report and leave. This is a collective community with group learning, and you get ongoing support. So direct access to our expert network, monthly groups like this one, training tools and resources like self-ID surveys and workforce data, our currently being developed academy, and B Corp toolkit, and our new inclusive job board, plus a whole host of more information and more support. Now, it's B Corp month, and about a third of our partners are certified B Corps. Companies like Tyler Grange, Danone, Peak PEO, Lucky Saint. Going forward, they will all be able to use us for JEDI alignment, governance scrutiny, and proper evidence when recertification comes around. And this isn't just a list of what they need to do, it's practical help in doing it. And for purpose-led organisations that aren't B Corps, you get the same structure and clarity. And if you do decide to certify later, you've got the foundation in place to evidence it, which is the key part. So look, whether you're a B Corp or not a B Corp, or deep into your journey, or just trying to work out where to start, Includability will give you clarity, structure, and expert support to move you forward with confidence and without it being a huge effort. So thank you for your time. We'd love to grab 15 minutes over coffee to talk about your world, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how we might support you going forward. So, right, back over to the good stuff with Dave.
Jay, thank you so much. I could listen to that silky smooth voice all morning. Thanks so much, mate. That's wonderful. And I'm delighted to now introduce our next guest speakers in celebration of B Corp Month, two absolute purpose-led powerhouses. The wonderful Sacha Harvey, People Director at Lucky Saint, a certified B Corp, of course, and one of our own brilliant includability committed employers, and the fabulous Ali Fisher, founder of Plans with Purpose. Sacha, Ali, so lovely to see you as always. And the virtual floor is yours when you're ready.
Can I drive, Dave? Where's my presentation?
Perfect. Sacha, we got you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, cool. Can everyone see that okay? Just a couple of thumbs up. Brilliant, thank you. Thank you so much for having us this morning. It's really great to be here. It's been a while since I've presented on a CSG, but I always forget how like energizing and engaging it is to be with you all. So I'm Sacha, People Director at Lucky Saint. We are a B Corp, we're an alcohol-free beer company and a certified inclusive employer. And Dave has asked us along today to talk a little bit about the Jedi Matters Collective, which is the kind of scalable approach that we've been taking to EDI across SMEs. We've actually just taken on 2 new collaborators. So we are now a group of 2, 4, 6, 8, which is really exciting. And we just wanted to share a little bit with you about how it's worked on our journey. So we're a collection of 8 B Corps. That's actually kind of happened a little bit by accident, but naturally you can imagine the alignment on Jedi and the new standards has kind of pulled us together and drawn us together. But that's not to say that the approach we've taken can't be applied to anybody that isn't necessarily a B Corp or is still earlier on that journey. And we've got a variety of leaders that sit around the table representing their business's interests, from founders to MDs to people leaders. And Ali, who we fondly call Chief Wrangler, is the person who hustles us, keeps us all in order, makes sure the next steps and actions gets done, and also does a lot around our data and insight, which she'll talk about a bit more as well. So when we came together over 2.5 years ago, I think we're in our 3rd year now, there was an email that was sent out to quite a big collection of people to express this mission, which was to come together as like-minded SMEs to build, knowledge, accessible resources. And a big part of it was about creating a scalable approach in a world where actually we're really lean on resources, we're really lean on time, actually budgets are getting cut. And, as we've seen over the last couple of years, the world of Jedi and building time for that space for that work has increasingly come under scrutiny. So how can we come together and be kind of greater as a group than individually within our organizations? So a little bit about how we started, and we're sharing this information with the hope that there might be some people on this call who take some bits of brilliance about how they could take forward their EDI journey, stop feeling blocked by some of the constraints of SMEs or being a B Corp, and how they might apply this. So when we began, we were 10 organisations who came together to run a chemistry session and understand where we all were. And we had quite a high attrition coming out of that, and ended up with 4 founding organisations, which ended up being B Corps. And we agreed to launch the Jedi Collective. And actually, we were the founding members. Sadly, one of those has had to step away from the work, but the 3 founders that still remain, and myself, 4 founders that still remain, Ali, myself, Corsten Press, and then Pip and Nut. So over the following year, we did a lot of testing and learning around how we wanted to share information. And the 3 key areas we focused on was building an in-house mentoring program. I'm sure for lots of you who are going through the standards at the moment, you're seeing how important mentoring is and how valuable it is to underrepresented groups who don't necessarily access learning differently. We also started to look at how we could operationalize panels and workshops. And we spent a lot of time using our own internal resources in the first year to kind of keep it safe and test and learn. And then as we went through the year, we introduced 3 new collaborators, so meeting with new people who had a like-minded approach, and we started to expand our proposition to include in-person events, and then continued to leverage internal expertise. And we had our first roundtable as well. So this is about trying to develop thought leadership, and we focused on recruitment actually at that time. So in our second year, we've gone into how do we embed the learning that's already been launched, and also how do we focus on specific groups? Again, another really important part of the standard. So how are you targeting, your line managers, your senior leadership? And we focused on race and ethnicity and senior leadership in that year. And part of coming together is that you can pool your financial resources to actually reach a much broader audience, which actually is really, really important when you're a small business. And then last year saw our first external recognition where we won Best D&I Initiative at the Business Culture Awards, which honestly was a really big moment for us, considering we built the collective up from scratch. And we started to expand even more broadly around some of the events that we ran. And where we're at now in year 3 is actually trying to create an environment for open sourcing. So how can we take this blueprint and help other people build sister collectives? And we actually just ran our first open sourcing event, and Ali has been supporting a new collective to come together. So watch this space. We hope to see that coming through soon. And here's just a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing that was captured before. So you can see some of it's online, some of it's in person, like an inclusive networking event. We always do our LGBTQIA+ event, and we open that up to members of the community to create a safe and structured space for them to come together. Absolute Collagen ran an incredible age diversity webinar, and then more formal training, like the microaggressions training we did, that was run for the entire collective. So a snapshot of some of the things that we've done. Ali, over to you.
You know that Chief Wrangler is one of the nicer names you've called me.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Often cat herder comes up. Thanks, Sacha. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you. I'd heard such amazing things about this community. First time. There is such amazing energy. I love it. So taking over from where Sacha has just gone a bit of our history. What have we done? This is looking at this year. What are we planning? We have an annual strategy session. Sounds very posh. We get together in the Lucky Saint pub and we have a really good conversation. Didn't know where it was going to go last December. We just decided we could go deeper. So we had a really great breadth of events, and we said which themes, which topics, which social identities can we go deeper on. These 3 had come up in a survey we'd done at the end of the year, opening up to 300 employees across what was then the 6 organisations, we're now 8. And these 3 themes were what the teams wanted to hear about. So that's what we're focusing on this year. Women's experiences in the workplace, neurodiversity and ethnicity. Sacha, next slide. I get the nice one. Look what we've done. We're really proud. It's been grafting, but really worth it. The first number that's on this slide is the connection. So Sacha was mentioning the mentoring program we run. So in June, we will open up for wave 5. We run it twice every year. 137 connections. So people who would have struggled in an SME to find a mentor have found a mentor across those 8 organisations. So we're really proud of that. It doesn't always work. Some connections don't hit it off. And we said, that's fine. We tried. But some of the in-depth relationships that get built are really game changers. So we're super proud of that. We're able to explore breadth of social identities that if we were just one SME working on our own would be hard. Sacha, the number's gone up. We're actually now 33 external speakers because of the event so far this year. So that's a real breadth of lived experience, different voices, experts coming into our organisation. LinkedIn followers nearly at 1,500. So our mission and vision is about trying to help total SME industries sector to say we're working in our organisations first, but the more ripple effects we can create, the better. So LinkedIn is one of those channels we try and share our learnings. Because we divide the load of our events and our training, we think, and the team are telling us, that the quality of what we run is really high. So we get feedback on every session and we're averaging a 9 out of 10, which we love. So it's quality. We've run 3 networking sessions so far, so we have broad geographical spread. So we do a lot online to be super inclusive, but occasionally we get together in person and it's really powerful. 2 roundtables, Sacha said that trying to do thought leadership and really stretch ourselves. 1 line manager training, so a really targeted audience on race and ethnicity last year. Our open sourcing workshop in Jan that we're super excited about. I think we had 30 organisations attend, so there's lots of interest in this space, which we love, and our award, which we're proud of. Connection with B Corp. So as Sacha said, thanks, Veronica. We didn't set out for this to be exclusive to B Corps, but at the moment it is 8 B Corps, all driven to be force for good. It sits beautifully alongside the new standards that James was talking about a moment ago. So in the new standards, there's 2 things that B Lab are asking. So to track your data, to get insights, to drive your action plan, and then the action plan. So the collective is helping us on tracking some of that data and getting the insights. It also sits really well alongside 3 specific actions of the 19. So collective action, ta-da, the mentoring sponsorship program, and leadership knowledge, and others. So some of our 8 in the collective are going through recertification this year. Just the opportunity to talk to each other on the journey is really helpful. So that's a bit about the link to B Lab and B Corp.
And I think the other thing that comes out from it for all of us, a lot of us, particularly those in the people space, are, one people bands. We're wearing multiple hats across organizations, and actually prioritizing our own development is often quite difficult. And Jedi forces us to carve out that time to really develop and grow. So part of our responsibility is also making sure we're upweighting and upskilling our own knowledge. And that is also relevant when we think about the types of collaborators that we bring in. Ali talked about 30 people on the open source. We have maybe double, triple that wanting to join. And actually, it's really incredible to be able to make sure that we connect with people that are going to continue to add and bring new voice to the table, which is really exciting with the 2 new collaborators we've got as well. And we're lean on the budgets. Like, it's tough finding the resource to allocate across all of the learning and development and EDI initiatives we need to kind of get through as an organization each year. It's the impact of being able to spend money at one point in time, but be able to leverage the investment that other businesses make throughout the year is just, it's priceless. So the model in itself just means that our teams get access to so much more. We can also afford better quality of training. And in terms of time, I would commit to 2 events per year as an example. My teams get to attend 12 to 24 events over the year. So actually what we put in, when you measure it up to what we can get out, it's absolutely huge. And then, as Ali said, the mentoring program, we've got in our stride now with it, with matching and following up and making sure we're training people on being responsible. But that's a massive cost saving, not having to use an external platform. So kind of having set that up and getting to grips with how it works, just lots of opportunity in the current climate.
I'll get the bragging slide. This is like us showing up all shiny. It's been really good. Like, it's genuinely been done for the authenticity of doing Jedi really well, but it has also been really good for the organisation's reputation and awareness. Anecdotally, some of our organisations have said when people are coming in for interview, they're talking about Jedi Matters Collective and saying, hey, we've heard you do this. Which is great. So a couple of things we've been involved in said the Shiny Awards on the right-hand side, which was really lovely recognition for us as a team. On the left is some of the team presenting at the D&I in grocery with Grocery Aid, sharing the journey. And then we've been partnering with B Lab on we're a bit of a case study of doing things differently. And that's been really lovely. Last slide, I think, Sacha. This is us. If anyone would like to find out more, if you're tempted to start a sister collective or join one, give us a shout. We're so passionate that it's just a really effective way of supporting Jedi and making more things happen. Just give us a shout. That's it. Thank you.
Wow, Sacha and Ali, thank you so much. What a journey. And thank you for sharing, obviously, not only the successes and the engagement across what has been an extraordinary last 2 years, but also the challenges and how you've addressed it. The idea of the sister collective sounds extraordinary. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm not surprised that it's been so pioneering and that it's had the success that it's has because of the input and because of the leverage across the team, which is extraordinary. Our committed employees are businesses of all gorgeous shapes and sizes, but Lucky Saint, I think, are a shining example of an organization with a highly committed, highly engaged senior leadership team, totally committed to creating an excellent workplace culture. Ali, we've always been huge fans of the impact that you create in supporting businesses to find their why. So thank you so much again for all you do. And please check out Ali and the amazing work that she does so that you can connect with her so that she can support your business too. And Sacha, thank you again for a really inspirational and insightful discussion. You're both brilliant. Thank you for all of your time with us this morning. And we would now love you to vote for a charitable project that we can support on your behalf through our partnership with B1G1. Like Lucky Saint, they're a brilliant B Corp certified organization. They're a global giving platform and they support hundreds of charitable projects, both in the UK and internationally, all positively impacting the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So as ever, you're doing an incredible thing for the planet simply by being awesome and hanging out with us this morning. James is going to drop these options into the chat feed for you now. 3 amazing high impact community projects to choose from, and simply pop the letter of your chosen project in the feed, A, B, or C. Project A is providing access to clean water by sponsoring a well and water pump in Malawi. Project B is protecting native forests through local community action in Honduras. And Project C is providing teaching materials to a nursery school in the Mukateri region of Ethiopia. Now, as you choose your project, James is going to pop another link into the chat feed for you. If you get the opportunity, there's no pressure at all to do so. But if you fancy taking a look at B1G1 membership and becoming a business for good yourself, then that link will give you $50 into your new B1G1 account. And obviously you can use that to support any charitable project of your choosing. Includability also receives $50 in our B1G1 account as an official B1G1 partner, but we will transfer that $50 to you. So effectively signing up will give you $100 to spend on creating his amazing impact. I think membership itself starts around about £20 a month for the entire business based on your annual revenue. It's so worth looking at if you get an opportunity. It's a great way to embed positive impact into your everyday business operations. So we'll leave that with you to have a play. And of course, any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. Sorry, James has just popped a message to say, Dave, you haven't sent me the link because I'm rubbish. So as a follow-up, we'll put that B1G1 link in there along with Cara's video, so that you've got both delights to take a look at whenever you get the, the opportunity to do so today. First, I dropped James in about having a hot cross bun, and now I've done this to him. So well done me, James. I'm so sorry, but we'll make sure we follow up on that for you. And now I'm delighted to introduce our final guest speaker, the wonderful Sonia Ponzo. Sonia's founder of Outset Wellness, and she's here to talk about some of the amazing work they do as an expert-led health tech startup in helping us get moving in a way that fits our brain, our day, and our real life. Sonia, it's so lovely to see you as always, and the virtual floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Can everybody confirm that you can hear me? Yes, because my cat was chewing on the cable that attached the microphone, so I just needed to make sure that that didn't impact anything today. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sonia. I am a psychologist and a researcher by background, and I also have ADHD, which is obviously going to be very important for the presentation today. And today I wanted to just discuss a little bit, talk to you a little bit about neurodivergence and mental health, but through the lens of self-regulation, which is something you may have not encountered before, and also leave you with a couple of things that you can do today in your workplace to actually bring self-regulation as part of your workflow. So very briefly, what is ADHD? ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects things like attention, impulse control, and how the brain regulates things like action, A core aspect of ADHD is this sense of paralysis. So knowing exactly what you want to do, but not being able to start because of the overwhelm. And you can see here, this is a snapshot of my brain at any given moment. And because ADHD brains work in a different way than neurotypical brains, it can feel pretty chaotic inside an ADHDer mind. And even though, we've all heard a lot about ADHD in the public discourse, right? But even though there is a lot of discourse around ADHD, living with ADHD really presents several challenges at different stages of the pathway. First, you need to get a diagnosis. And if you heard a little bit about what's happening in the UK, especially with the NHS, it's very difficult to do so. In some places, in some rural places, the wait list for an ADHD diagnosis can be up to 7 years, if not even 15. Obviously, there are other ways like right to choose, but they're not as accessible as they used to be. It takes at least 6 months to a year to get a diagnosis in any way. And after you get a diagnosis, you need to get into a process called titration, which basically means trying to adjust the level of your meds until you get to a point that you can tolerate. Because unfortunately, medication for ADHD has a ton of adverse effects for a lot of people, so it's very difficult to tolerate. And on top of that, not only you need to wait to be put on medication, but sometimes you also have wonderful things like medication shortages. So after a long time of finally being adjusted to a medication regime, the medication just disappears for a while. And finally, even if you get your diagnosis, even if you get your medication, the reality is that medication is not a magic fix. It can be revolutionary for some, but you still need to live with the condition in your everyday life. And ADHD sits within neurodivergence as an umbrella, which covers a wide variety of profiles, and it kind of defines the way different brains process information, regulate attention, and respond to the world due to neurodevelopmental conditions. We talked about ADHD, but for instance, for autism, this may mean different sensory profiles or differences in social communication. For dyslexia, it's about language. For dyspraxia, it's about coordination. And then on the other side, you've got mental health. Conditions like burnout, anxiety, or depression that can affect anyone, often as a result of chronic stress. And when it comes to anxiety and stress, we can look at them pretty much as our nervous system being stuck in a state of fight or flight. When we're talking about burnout or depression, it's more about the nervous system shutting down. And even though these are distinct, they're very connected. Neurodivergent people tend to be much more likely to experience anxiety, burnout, or depression, often because the environments in which they're in don't really support their neuroprofile. There's this concept called the poor person environment fit that basically says that when a neurodivergent trait, let's say sensitivity to light, meets a challenging environment, let's say a very bright office, the result is a mental health outcome, which is typically stress or anxiety. And this is really when the concept of self-regulation comes into play. Self-regulation can be defined as the ability to manage internal states like attention, emotion, and energy. And when self-regulation works, we can react to our environment properly and adapt to it. So self-regulation typically can be seen as counteracting a certain state, like feeling restless, with an appropriate action, going for a walk to calm down. The problem is that when it doesn't work, we get states that are really difficult to counteract, like overwhelm, shutdown, and paralysis. And this is just a little bit of an overview of a model of looking at ADHD that has its roots in science, and it's kind of the underlying model of everything that we do at Outset. This paralysis that we talked about, that is core to the ADHD symptomatology, is really the result of what we suggest is the failed communication between what your body really needs right now. Think about the first talk that we had today. What does your body need right now? What does it tell you to want to eat? And how the brain interprets that need. So it's basically a failure to self-regulate. And we call this the embodied activation loop, which is the foundation of everything we do at Outset. And in ADHD and neurodivergence at large, we could say, but also burnout and chronic stress, signals from the body are not interpreted by the brain in the same way. And this is due to fundamental differences in the way that the brain perceives things like sound, smells, and more importantly, signals coming from the body, bodily sensations like thirst, hunger, fatigue. If you talk to ADHD, they would tell you that they can starve themselves for days because they don't get this signal of hunger, but then suddenly they're starving completely or completely exhausted. So it's a matter of failing to understand when your body is telling you to do something in the right time frame. I'll give you an example here. Let's imagine that you're sitting at a desk and you start feeling that something is wrong within you, but you don't really know what it is. And let's restrict it to two choices. One is you're tired and you need a nap. The other one is you're restless, you need to go for a walk. The problem is that in ADHD, it's basically like flipping a coin. You don't really know which one it is. So if you choose wrong and you say, I'll go for a walk, but your body is like, we're not going anywhere, I'm exhausted, what you're left with is a failure to initiate action. But that failure will be seen by you as your own failure. So you'll start thinking, oh, I can't trust myself with basic things. I can't function like everybody else. I'm unable to do anything. And you'll start thinking that the problem is you, when in reality, it's that your internal signals have been scrambled so many times up and down that you don't really know how to read them anymore. So what does it mean in practice, right? So we talked a little bit about what self-regulation is, but what does it mean in practice? The real solution to this problem is giving people freedom to self-regulate whenever they need to do so. To step away, to reset the body, move your body is a really good way to self-regulate in some of these instances. So that loop between sensing, intention, and action can start working again. And often this means starting with understanding the needs. So for support to work, we need to help people out of a dysregulated state first. If I'm in a state of paralysis, it's going to be very difficult for me to receive that support effectively and do something with it. Also, it's about going below the surface. So often what can be seen as a productivity problem in a workplace context, someone is not engaging, might actually be a dysregulation problem. The person is so overwhelmed that they can't physically engage. We need to get them out of the overwhelm first. And finally, it's really about building self-regulation into work day to day. And I know a thing or two about what it means when, dysregulation happens in a chronic way. I was in a very high pressure job a few years ago, and I fell into a really severe case of burnout. And the only way that I saw was actually allowing me to stay, saying enough not to collapse completely, was exercising. Exercising, for anybody who knows a little bit about exercise and ADHD, is kind of the holy grail. It's one of those things that can help with pretty much most symptoms of exercise. Focus, attention, impulse control, mood, you name it, exercise helps with it. But obviously, it has a short shelf life, right? That you can't exercise all day in order to get the effects that you will need to get from it. But the problem here is that, and back then I didn't even know I had ADHD, so it was kind of like a sort of serendipitous a thing that I just found out, basically. So I started exercising, but I realized very quickly that it was really difficult for me to stay consistent with it. And this is very consistent with failures of the ADHD brain in making decisions, sticking to it, and also forming habits. And so for me, it was very, very difficult to be able to say, I will go exercise and actually go. And I would spend a lot of time beating myself up because I was just failing at another thing I knew was actually good for me. And this is really why we created Outset the way that we did. Outset is a platform that basically syncs to your calendar to see when you're free and when you're not available, syncs to the weather forecast to see when it's best to suggest an activity outside, or maybe just tell you to stay inside and do something, and adapts to your behavior. So over time, it will try to find the best moment in your day when to suggest an activity for you to do. But we also have an element of gamification whereby every time you do an activity and move your body, we have a little plant in the app that grows with you. And you keep growing the plant until the plant is fully grown. You add it to your garden, then you keep growing your garden as many times as you want. The idea here is not just to have a gimmick, but it's more about showing people progress in a visual way that doesn't feel intimidating or overwhelming. And the final aspect of it is social elements. So you can add your friends to your own schedule and match workout times with them, and also talk to people in the community. And this is really to kind of give you a sense that you're not doing it alone, that there is a community around you. And obviously this is now live on the Includability Marketplace. Now that we have learned a little bit about self-regulation, what body resets do, I just wanted to leave you with a brief set of tools that you can actually take into your day, into your workplace today. So the first point here is, given that we need to support self-regulation in the day-to-day, the first thing that we need to do is design for state rather than willpower. Neurodivergent individuals need environments where they can get out of these dysregulated states. And when we talk about state, we're not talking, I'm feeling tired. We're talking really fundamental and difficult to counteract things like overwhelm, paralysis, freeze, those moments where the nervous system is just bracing for dear life. And you cannot just use willpower to get out of a dysregulated state. It's kind of like trying to start a car with a dead battery. You need a jump start. So what do? You pair each action to an associated reset, which could be a body reset for when you're in a paralysis state. It could be a sensory reset, like if the lights are too much, even sunglasses, as stupid as that sounds, that can really help getting out of a sensory state. Or task resets, meaning switching between tasks when one of them gives you a sense of freeze, but also using rhythmic resets like breathing or tapping. The idea is that resets are tools to recharge your own battery. The second point, and it's not always possible, is to try and prevent dysregulation from happening altogether. We know from ourselves, I'm sure, that every time we switch between different tasks or move from a meeting to a task, what happens is that we pay a tax in mental energy. This is called the context switching penalty. But for many neurodivergent employees, but also for those with anxiety, depression, or burnout, the tax is higher, and it leads to dysregulation more easily. So doing very simple hygiene things like ending a meeting 5 minutes before the hour, or limiting consecutive meetings to 2-3 max, or protecting body resets breaks. So have in your calendar, I need to go for a walk at this time for like even just 5 minutes around my desk, or protecting focus time when it's needed, are really little things that you can do today to actively prevent, to basically move from fixing dysregulation to preventing dysregulation. Another important point is compassionate accountability. So the idea here is that when you start from a place of support rather than shame, it's much easier to have very difficult conversation and prevent dysregulation. There is a concept here called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD, which is kind of very common in ADHD and autism communities, which is basically an intense emotional pain that can be triggered by perceived criticism or rejection. And the idea here is that if we frame something like, instead of saying something like to an ADHD employee, I need to talk, instead we say, do you have 5 minutes to talk about X? It's great, but I need to clarify something. What we avoid in that ADHD brain is the chain of events that takes you from, can you talk, to I'm getting fired tomorrow. And this obviously leads to great levels of dysregulation in the day-to-day. Also, when we encourage psychological safety, so when employees know that mistakes won't be punished, they're much more likely to ask for help when they're starting to feel dysregulated instead of waiting for things to snowball. And the last point is when working in teams to try and frame accountability as collaboration. So kind of set a goal, but leave room for how to get to that goal. And finally, and then I'm going to shut up because I know that we're nearing the end of the meeting. The final point here is that in order to allow people to self-regulate, we need to give them back a sense of agency. So what this means is really aim for flexibility in the way that you work, because different ways of working really help different types of brains. The idea here is to be tight on outcome, but loose on process. So we set a destination, but we trust people to find their own way to get to it. And also support different types of task flows. For instance, for an ADHD brain, task switching may actually be a great way to go about their day. For someone else, it may be better to just leave it as protected focus time. So we need to allow both things to happen. And finally, in general, move to flexible policing rather than punishment or guardrails. So try to make sure that people know that they have agency on the path that they follow. And I know we are at the mark of the end of our meeting, so just very briefly, I'll say that if you'd like to work with us, obviously the Outset app is available on the portal. So if you want to include body-based resets in your day and in your workforce, you can try the Outset app from the Includability Marketplace. But also, if you would like to work with us on training sessions, as well as an assessment of how you're currently doing in terms of neuro inclusion in your workplace, give me a shout.
Oh my word. Sonia, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. Amazing insights. Really, really wonderful and fascinating to listen to. The slides were amazing. And obviously, it's worth noting that Sonia has over 10 years of research experience in psychology and behavior change. And the Outset team have provided incredible support to HR teams and CD leadership to ensure employees don't struggle in silence. So, as Sonia said, please do connect with them. They are absolutely extraordinary as an organization and they provide extraordinary tangible support to your business. Sonia, thank you again for all your brilliance and your time with us this morning. It's amazing to have you with us as always. And finally, our hot date for your diary is our next community support group that will be happening on Wednesday, the 29th of April. Same time, 10:30 a.m. And we'll be chatting financial wellbeing hot tips with the wonderful Stacey Lohman, founder of Money First Aid, as well as mindfulness in the workplace with the brilliant Amy Polly, international speaker and creative wellbeing lead at ADHD 360. And finally, the inspirational Natalie Cartmel, MBE, will be showcasing how employers can support the homeless and vulnerably housed with opportunities in the workplace to support independence. That registration link is in the chat feed for you now. James, thanks so much. And we'd absolutely love for you to join us. So please do sign up, bring your friends, bring your teammates with you. We'd love to have you there. And that brings us to the end of our CSG this morning. It's, oh my word, it's been amazing. A huge thank you to our brilliant, brilliant guest speakers, to Cara, Sacha, Ali, and Sonia for their generosity and sharing their insights, their knowledge and experiences with us today. And a huge, huge thank you to every single one of you, our brilliant Includability Collective, for joining us this morning. So until we all meet again next month, love to you all and have an incredible rest of your week. Take good care.